All right, guys, listen. Do you guys remember the weapon called Bullet King? You know, the big fat LMG that is basically made of gold and also fires golden bullet. Now, I'm not talking about the global event. I'm actually talking about golden bullets. Like, literally, bullets were made of gold. I mean, if you played Warlords of New York expansion story and you know the lore, then you know what I'm talking about. But why am I saying all of this? Well, in this update, all the LMGs received a damage buff. That included Bullet King. And it was already a great weapon, but with that damage, and especially where nowadays we can change every single exotic's third attribute, well, it's actually pretty good. Now, that's basically what I did. I changed my third attributes to, damage to armor. Now, since it's an LMG, it already comes with damage to target out of cover, which is actually 12% and not the usual 10% we get from every other weapon. So that's a 2% advantage there, which is nice. Obviously, we get 6% of damage to armor there, so that makes this weapon really strong. And the fun thing is that this weapon's RPM is actually similar, especially with Striker. If you pair it, you're going to have 970 RPM, 78 RPM that is similar to, everybody's favorite St. Elmo's engine. And if you just see it, I mean, both the weapon together, you see that Bullet King actually has a little bit of higher total damage. Even though my St. Elmo's got +7 extra weapon expertise, still Bullet King is, winning in terms of that total damage. Now, I'm not doing any comparison here. I just wanted to show you that, with the same RPM, it's actually doing a little bit more damage. Now, obviously, St. Elmo's got the two beautiful advantage over Bullet King, which being the recoil and also the ease of build, because we all know St. Elmo's get a lot of crit chance and crit damage, 20%, so it makes it easy to make a build around it for new players especially. But people with a high SHD shouldn't have any problem. Like, I don't have any issues making a build with Bullet King right now. I mean, when St. Elmo's didn't existed, we still made the builds with other weapons. I mean, we didn't rely on that 20% crit chance and crit damage every time, right? Now, Bullet King doesn't get you any crit chance or crit damage. It's just 5% there, and that's basically it. The cool thing about Bullet King is that you don't have to reload the weapon. So you don't have to worry about reloading the weapon for like 2 seconds, which usually an assault rifle takes the time to reload. Now, it also actually has a higher range. Like, it has 40 range versus where the St. Elmo's got 35. So it does have a very high range there. So that's also a plus point. But the problem with the Bullet King is the recoil pattern, which is, funny enough, similar to the St. Elmo's engine. But the only difference between them is that St. Elmo's engine is going very slow, where Bullet King is trying to go very fast, which is obviously a bad thing for Bullet King. And this is where St. Elmo's engine edges out a little bit easily there. So it's a bit harder to control the recoil with Bullet King, but very easy with, the St. Elmo's engine. But if you're playing on a mouse and keyboard, shouldn't be a problem. You just drag your mouse a little bit and it's fine. But if you're in console, then I guess you can sell your soul to Satan or get a PC. I don't know, but yeah. But anyways, Bullet King is a great weapon, especially pairing with the Striker. It does very high damage. Now, it is a big weapon for sustained DPS rather than the burst DPS. Like, if you want to burst down an enemy, an elite enemy, or a boss NPC, I mean, the best weapon in that place would be, in my opinion, I think it's the Ouroboros, because that does insane amount of damage, in the burst damage scenario. Where the Bullet King shines is going to be the sustained damage, where you need to damage a lot because the boss has a very, very high health. Something like a raid boss or like an incursion boss, they have a lot of health, so you have to damage them for a long time. And the more damage you do, the longer period you do the damage, the better, because you don't have to worry about losing DPS while you're trying to reload your weapon. And that little 2 second of reload can make a huge difference, especially if you're doing millions of crits. That 2 seconds you can lose tens, if not 15 millions of damage, to be honest. And that could be a difference between 1 DPS phase extra, because the boss went immune or something like that. So, I mean, that's a very rare situation, cannot happen all the time. But if it does, well, then it's time for you to switch your group, I guess, like seriously, or yell at them, just, do more damage. Anyway, so Bullet King, especially pairing with the Striker, is doing insane damage, and I'm actually using it. I'm going to show you 2 different variants of the build that you should be trying out by yourself. One is obviously we're going to be using the chest piece of Striker and also the backpack of Striker. Now, Coyote Mask has a really nice play here because, Coyote does provide you with a lot of crit chance and crit damage at the same time, so which is a good choice. And you should be using Coyote over here. Now, focus on your crit chance a lot, because making a build with, especially with Bullet King, which doesn't provide you much crit chance bonus or stuff, you would be needing crit chance. Don't forget to add a lot of crit chance. Just make sure you're sitting at around 45 to 50% because you have Coyote. So then you will get more crit chance from Coyote. So that's a plus point there. Now, obviously, we're going to be using the named item, the Contractor Gloves here, because, you know, it's LMG. So we get LMG damage 10%, and we also get 8% of damage to armor. In this build, we can actually get 14% of damage to armor, which is amazing, especially because of the gloves. And that's pretty much it. We're going to be adding crit chance and crit damage mods and attributes as well on all our pieces. Again, focusing on getting that crit chance higher. Now, I can afford a little bit of crit damage because, you know, my SSD allows me to do that. But if your SSD is low, then you might as well just get the crit chance as high as possible. So that's pretty much it. Now, one tip I want to give you guys, that when you're fighting the bosses, do not build up striker stacks on the boss. Fire the weapon when you have full stacks on the boss. Like, seriously, go to DPS phase when you have full stacks, or at least close to full stacks of striker when you're trying to, you know, DPS the boss. Before that, just use any other weapon like your shotgun, lefty, whatever you have. And there's a bunch of enemies running around. Just, you know, build up stacks on them. Even if the boss is immune, you can build stacks on the bosses. So do that before you head on to the DPS phase and try to, you know, build up the stacks from the boss, which is going to be a huge DPS loss. You want to have stacks high up when you're in the DPS phase, okay? That goes for everything, not just the Bullet King, everything. And Elmo's, Eagle Bearer, any other weapon you're using on a striker build, make sure you have stacks before you go to the DPS phase, okay? Don't build stacks on the boss. That's it. Now, obviously, the secondary weapon I have here is Lefty because, you know, perfect sledgehammer gives 40% damage to armor. You chuck a grenade, you know, proc this talent, and then you swap back, and you're basically just melting at that point. Because, again, no need to worry about reloading. Trying to get that headshots going on, because if the boss stays in one place, that'll be nice. If they move around, then body shot should be fine. You're doing millions of crits anyway, especially if you have team members that buffing your damage, something like a future initiative or opportunistic buff or something like that. That'll be even very, very high damage. Now, the second variant you want to use, you're going to be taking off the chest piece. This is for more like, you know, like a group play for heroic contents and stuff like that. If you want to do that, because, you know, you get stacks build up quickly. I mean, definitely you can use it, try it on legendary content and stuff. Not a problem. But, you know, you do build up the stacks very quickly. So you want to be using something like a group or chest piece. If you need more crit chance, then I would suggest use Sheshka, because that gives you crit chance. If you want weapon damage, you can obviously use something like a Petrov, because that gives you 10% LMG damage. But I would go with the crit damage with the group over here. Obviously, obliterate talent on the chest piece, and crit chance, crit damage, and crit chance mod over there. Now, since we're using high end on the chest piece, we need to take out our contractor gloves here, and we're going to switch it with the striker gloves. And that's pretty much the striker build with just 100 stacks, having the backpack there. So this is a variant that you would use. And if you want the most damage, obviously you're going to be using the chest piece of striker, and make sure you have very high stacks with it, close to full stacks, and that point you're doing insane amount of damage. Now, obviously you can't use a shield with this, so I would say use a healing drone to, you know, get your armor back by the healing drone, or you can use a turret for distraction. Turrets are really good at distracting the enemy and also cheap damaging them, so that's also a choice there. So it's a pretty good build. Again, looking at the crits, you can see, try to keep it that 45 to 50% of crit chance, because you're using a coyote mask there. And then the crit damage, whatever you can get, it's fine, because you will have a lot of multiplicative damage coming up from the build. The weapon itself, because of damage to target out of cover and damage to armor, and obviously not to mention striker stacks. So you'll do really, really high damage. We're really talking about millions of crits on the body here. So yeah, give it a try, see for yourself. You recently received the buff. The damage is really, really high with the striker. Building it might be an issue, like I said, because not much crit chance. But if you can get around with that, and you can deal with the recoil, this is a very high sustain DPS weapon, which can literally melt bosses. And I'm talking about legendary bosses, incursion bosses, raid bosses, not just the normal like heroic content bosses, because they don't have that much health. So yeah, give it a try. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, peace.